Hey everybody, welcome to Olympic Minds Leadership Beyond Limits. This is a podcast for the leader of leaders, the visionary of visionaries. This is for people who want to move beyond success into significance, for people who want to move from mediocrity to mastery. What we're talking about today is not theory, and the reason it's not theory is because I'm talking to people like Chandy Ghosh, who has lived leadership for a long time, who is super great at what she does. And so this is not theory. This is heart-tested, results-proven, right, and grit-oriented. So everything you're listening to today has truth in it. So hey, I'm Sherry Winn, two-time Olympian, national championship basketball coach, author, speaker, and CEO of the Winning Leadership Company. So I want to tell you just briefly about Chandy. What I love to talk about is the person rather than the title. I'll let Chandy tell you her title. I met Chandy a few years ago when I interviewed her, and what I found was this super authentic human being. Not just authentic, but the thing behind Chandy is that she did her work. She's done her personal development. She spent years and decades in personal development, and she did her work in terms of her business. So when she shows up as knowledgeable, wise, and authentic. So Chandy, why don't you tell folks a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I'm Chandy Ghosh. I'll first start with what I do right now, and then I want to talk about why I am who I am. So basically, I am right now the Chief Operating Officer and GM at the company called Sinch Emergency Services. And what that is I handle traffic for nationwide mission critical 911 technology. So I have about 40% of the country's traffic. We are governed by the Department of Homeland Security and the FCC. So it's a high stress environment, but what is fantastic is that it's a passion-filled job, right? I wake up in the morning and say, we save lives, and this is what we do. So it's always fun doing what we do. Our team, I have had this team for the last 8 years now, since I built this from scratch. And this team literally almost negligible attrition because of the fact that we are doing such important work. Now, having said that, that's all about what I do, but who I am is, so much of my previous childhood, etc., has molded me into who I am. I was born and raised on the streets of Calcutta, in the city of joy, which basically means, I played on the streets of Calcutta with my brother's friends and was always encouraged by my dad, who was educated in the US, by the way. A lot of the families in India, education is the key to get out of, mediocrity, and everything's about education. So they gave up their own luxuries to send us to some insane, amazing educational institutions as we were growing up. And I'll tell you one incident that truly made me who I am was from my high school, which is a girls' school. Not high school, sorry, this was middle school. We were very young. We were sent for, community work to this place, and we went in there, and I saw a whole lot of little baby orphans, girls. And when we walked in, I saw this frail white lady holding on to these babies, and all these snot-faced babies and crying, and we were like, why is this white lady in the middle of this squalor picking up all these little girl babies and hugging them like they were all her own babies? And of course we didn't get it back then when we were so young. And as we grew in life, like in high school, I realized one of the key reasons is that first off, there were no boy babies. It was all girl babies. And I thought, I'm in a girls' school, maybe there was a boys' orphanage next door. No, it was all about little baby girls were being abandoned in favor of baby boys. And so, and that lady was Mother Teresa. And this is she became Saint Teresa. We used to be there in her ashram, seeing her during our community service days. So now we get it and we realize, oh my God, no wonder she was, the sainthood and all that. But that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, we have to do something about, how do we grow women? How do we give them confidence? And that was what my dad was all about, which is why he basically would always tell me, you're a woman, you're going to rule the world, and, the best education, and then the independence. To get that confidence, I think it's all about driving that independence, which wasn't common back in the day. It was like, oh no, you got to stay, do this, and stay home and cook and clean and, get married at some point. And my dad was all about, you do what your brother does, or whatever the opportunities we give your brother is what we're going to give you. And so, my background, a little bit of it is similar to what you have done, like all about sports, athletics. I played at the national level in table tennis in India. I played badminton for my university, traveled everywhere in the country by myself. Came to the US and, won the NCAA equivalent, the collegiate championship, staying at the US Olympic Training Center. So all exciting stuff, but that, whole power and strength and that confidence that's given me is all because of what my parents made of me.
I think it's so amazing when you talk about your father, like driving your independence back when you were growing up, right? I mean, it's something that was probably not common. It was really different than what most people experience. So now, Chandy, as you look at how do you grow the confidence in your own, the confidence of women, I mean, you can say women and men, but how do you grow that confidence in the people that you lead? Because I think that as I look around and as I coach people, one of the number one things that I coach people on is imposter syndrome. So tell me more about, how you help people grow their confidence.
Yeah, so I'll talk about imposter syndrome too. But, growing women's confidence, you have to start at home right from the beginning. Your own daughters, right? These are the girls that are coming into the workplace. You have to give them that kind of confidence. And when I look at my own daughter, when I see her, I'm so proud of her because of what she's accomplished, what she's accomplishing in her early age. And that's true for, if you give that opportunity, almost every girl growing into womanhood can, take and drive and run with it. But basically, some of the key things is giving them the opportunity, offering them the basic skills of, how do you get there? Think about, I always talk about how girls shy away from math, finance, those kind of skills. I drive that a lot. I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter what field you're in. You might be doing technology, coding, etc. Go to your own company, open up your books. Look, they publish your annual reports. Look at those annual reports. Look at what financials mean. How do you write a P&L? What's a P&L? Is your company profitable? Just basic concepts of finance, because that is what will grow you in your later career stages, right? I mean, whether you own a company, whether you're, responsible for an entire division, whatever it is, having a really good idea of, how do you do gross margins? How do you do your OPEX, your EBITDA, your free cash flow? It's a basic concepts of how to run a business. That's important. And then the small steps of how you get there, take speaking engagements, start posting on LinkedIn on a topic that you're good at, right? Just little steps, and then go speak at events, engagements. The thing that in your mind you need to be, the way you get confidence is that you're prepared and you know your subject. That's the big thing, right? So if you learn your subject and and you're confident about your subject, you know the value you bring to that conversation. So there's no question of being fearful. You have to be able to own it and, show the world that you can do it so that others follow you. You have to have these role models. Like if you see it, you can be it.
I love that. If you see it, you can be it, right? I mean, I think that's where it starts. And I think a lot of people don't believe in themselves enough. And so, it happens again and again and again. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else can give you that power. I mean, people can talk to you about it, but if you're in your head going, but, like if you got the answers, but, you can't get there. And you talked about, really starting at a young age. One of my former players, who used to do this thing when I was a coach, and we'd call it the positive circle, and we'd say, I am. And everything after that had to be true and had to be positive. So one of the things she does with her kids, which I think is super cool, is before they go to bed at night, every single night, they have to say 3 things that are positive about themselves. Like I'm smart, I'm funny, I am whatever. And before they go to bed, she has 2 boys and a girl, but she's reinforcing that concept of, belief in self. Whereas I think that, you grew up in a system where your dad gave that to you, like it was so clear. And then, you're also giving that, you give that to your daughters. And I think that's so powerful, what we teach every single day as leaders What is something else that you're really proud of that you teach the people around you?
Okay, so one of the things is I do a lot of mentoring and coaching because young girls, they need that. They need that little boost of, I'm asked so often, I worked with this set of college girls I remember, and they were all having a really difficult time getting jobs. And also some of the coaching that you have to do all the time is find a mentor, find a sponsor, find somebody who's going to help you and coach you and mentor you. Because simple questions like they would ask me, I got my first job offer. Should I accept it right off the bat and not wait for, it's not the best, but what should I do now? And then should I negotiate my salary? I feel like, if I open my mouth, they'll tell me, they'll move on to the next candidate. So that fear. And so it's just that, to be able to find yourself a mentor or sponsor, to be able to answer some basic questions. And then, of course, this whole thing about once you're in the market, in the job market, and you're continuing on your career, just make sure you're intentional with your career, that you're planning it. Everything will not go according to plan, but plan out a couple of years, plan out. Just own your career, because it is so easy. I mean, I know this for sure. There's been so much adversity all through my childhood as we were raised, and after I first moved here, etc., that it would be so easy to say, I'm the victim. I'm not gonna be chasing my dreams anymore. This is not. I can't make it happen. No, you have to own that. You can't play the victim card. You own it, and you figure out how you're going to get over the initial roadblocks and how you're going to make it happen. You have to own it.
Right. I love that you just said that. I think so many people play the victim card and they start telling you all the reasons why they can't, this is what happened to me and this happened to me and this happened to me and that's why I can't. No. Like, that's the end of your power, right? The second that you play victim, it's the end of your power. So I love that you said that. One of the things you just said, I think would be interesting for people to hear is, you said, people are asking you when they go in, do they negotiate their salary? So let's say that I'm going into a job. What would you tell me if I said, I want to negotiate? What are some of the steps that you would help me understand how to negotiate? Because I think I've heard that from women before. I don't know. I'm just going to take the job. I just want the job. And how do I negotiate? Because then they won't want me. And I think that's so far from how men think. I think it's such a dichotomy between the two. So tell me, if I was a woman going in, how would I negotiate?
So first thing you need to understand is the fact that, I'm a leader. I've interviewed lots of women, right? You have to put yourself into the mind of the person who's trying to hire, right? When I'm hiring, let's say I have picked individual A, this girl, young lady, or middle-aged. This is valid at all stages of your career. It's not only about young girls. So let's say I have picked person A, and I know this is the person I want on my team. I've gone through multiple interviews. I know this is my first choice. So I'm going to do whatever it takes, or as much as I can, unless it's ridiculous asks. I'll do whatever I can to bring person A on board, because I don't have the bandwidth all the time to go back to person B, C, and D and start comparing and deciding who else I want to bring instead of A. So when you have that thought in your mind, then you have bargaining power right off the bat. So take that and then say, okay, what can I bargain? Now, obviously, if I go in and say I want double the salary, I want double this and all that, that's being a little ridiculous. So think about what is it. We know very well, like women compared to men in your early starting career, you make, 75 cents to the dollar and all that. So there's your one negotiating power. You can ask for a higher salary that would kind of make it on par. Mm-hmm. The other options you can think about is, more vacation time, more, stock options, more. There are very many different things that you can negotiate. Salary is one of them, and it is important because that's basically how you're going to level set, and it'll help you with the next few steps of your career. But again, put yourself in the mind of the person who's recruiting. Because right. I would go back, I would do what I can. I've gone to bat for every candidate. I'm like, no, that's the person I picked. I want that person.
Right.
Think about that.
I think that's wonderful advice for people, because I think what women do is like they start from the fear aspect, right? And so if you're fearful, you can't get what you want. I mean, fear is never what you want. It's always away from what you want. You have to go toward what you want. And so when you're like, if I say this and they might not want me, people that are hiring you are used to negotiating, right?
Yeah.
They're used to that. That is part of the process. They understand it's part of the process. And understanding that if you say that you're worth more, right, then they understand that you know your value. Like they understand that you know your value. And so when we talk about that, I think when you present as in terms of knowing your value, that's a whole different thing. And I will tell you this. So when I was young and I had just went to the Elite Eights, right, which is a big deal, right? When you're in college basketball, you get to the Elite Eight. And so I go in and I want a raise. And my president said this to me. He said, well, we're just going to pay you market value. And Chandy, I shut up and walked out. I just go, okay. That was all I did. I was like, okay. And I was like, I mean, when you say, okay, that's it. Like you're saying, I don't really believe in the worth of myself. I don't believe in my value. And I think that that's part of what we need to do is really believe in our value.
I'll tell you a simple example for myself. And again, it's taken me also some years. And like I said, that whole imposter thing we'll talk about. But this is one of the situations. I was a VP at CenturyLink, which is one of the large companies. And I was very happy in my position. So I had this company that, which is, well, I won't mention names, but basically they came through a recruiting agency to come talk to me because somebody had recommended that I be the head of operations and technology for their organization. So it would be an EVP position in their company. And so I basically thought it was pretty good, but so I told the recruiting agent, you know what, I'm really happy where I am. I'd like to know these 5 things so that, if you have proper, whether the salary, the vacation, the actual, what kind of ownership of some of the issues I'd have, etc. Just give me answers to these 5 so that way we're not wasting each other's time. And so he said, okay, I'll come back. He went back, got me all the answers. I looked at some of them and I said, this salary is nothing near where I'm making, and here's what my goals would be, and this is. So he went back and he came back to me and said, I'm sorry, your asks are a little too high, can't do all this. So they went away. And at that time, I was a member, I'm still a member of a lot of CIO groups. So a lot of these CIOs were applying for that job, came to me and asked me for advice. So I was coaching them to get this job. They went exactly a month. A lot of them would come back and tell me how their job, the interviews were going, etc. So for a year, I didn't hear anything after that. Then this recruiting agency, after 1 month, comes back to me and says, Chandy, they're willing to meet your needs. Can you come in for an interview on Monday? Since we're so far behind the game, we want Monday, 8 to 5, you're going to do 8 interviews back to back.
Wow.
I'm like, sure. So I came in Monday, 5 p.m. that evening. I got the job offer while I was sitting there.
Wow.
And so that, because literally they were just, somebody had obviously told them the value is in her. All these other people are interviewing. Yeah, you'll be paying them much less, but that she's the person you need. And I'm like, so it was all completely worth it. And I was not, I was holding out because I was pretty confident in what I was doing, and I was, this was it. And I have a whole other situation that we'll get to about imposter syndrome, which is going to be.
Yeah. So I love it that it's the catch-22, right? So if you don't know your value, nobody else can know your value. And I think a lot of people that are looking for value from somebody else, they're looking for those people to give them their value. Well, if you don't have the value, they can't give it to you. And so it's really about understanding, I always say this, there's 3 things I say. Nobody can value you as much as you need to value you. Nobody can validate you as much as you need to validate you. And nobody can love you as much as you need to love you, right? And if you're in alignment with those things, then when you're going out there, you're going to bring that alignment into fruition. So you said, let's talk about, you've mentioned 2 times, I hear you, mentioned 2 times, let's go back to imposter syndrome. So you really want to tell people more about that. So tell us what you've learned about that, imposter syndrome.
This is such a huge issue. And again, I speak all over the world in different conferences, etc. And I mentor and coach a lot specifically about imposter syndrome. And like you just mentioned, this, yes, it occurs a little bit in men, but in most men, like the common phrase is, right, it's out of 10 job recs, if a man meets 1 or 2, they'll apply for the job, whereas a woman, if they don't meet even 1, they won't apply for the job. And that's very common. And so So I was in this position, the EVP position, and I was really happy with my job, loved it, absolutely loved it. This was my third year in it and was really happy. And then I meet with this gentleman, and he comes to me and he says, hey, we run a big telecom company out of Chicago, and our biggest customer is one of the top wireless companies in the United States, and they have asked us to start a 911 division. Can you come and start up a 911 division for us? I looked at this guy. He was the president of the company. I looked at him and I'm thinking in my head, what does that even mean? I have no clue what he's asking me. How does one start 911? This is a mission critical industry that has been in place by this one company for decades on end. How do you build a competing company, a whole telecom infrastructure and networks and everything to do this? And I'm like, so I just listened, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, okay, whatever. And I told him, I'll get back to you. You never say no, in the beginning. You always think about it, sleep on it. And then, of course, you can say no if you have to. But so I come home and I'm like chatting with my husband and I tell him, he wouldn't know what to do. I think I'm going to just say, no, I'm happy where I am. There's no reason to do this. And, and I knew at the back of my mind, that was imposter syndrome. I'm like, there's no way I can do this. I wouldn't even know how to start. What's step one? And my husband is like, isn't this the topic I hear you keep coaching on? I'm like, so true, so true, so true. And, I'm in my comfort zone. I'm loving it. I'm getting everything I've asked for. Why would I want to get back into this position of uncertainty and not having a clue and starting from scratch? I have to build this from scratch. And then a private equity company was running this Chicago company. And so the president came back to me and he says, it's going to be sweet. Let me, I'll mentor you. And, there's going to be a payout. In 4 years, we're going to be setting it up for sale and all that. We'd really like you to join us and all that. So I accepted it. And, options, stock options, all that stuff. And I was like, if I don't do it now, when? Right? I'm already, this is the time in my career when I can take the risk.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And guess what? The first thing I did, I picked 5 of the most brilliant people I knew to come work for me. And I said, between the 6 of us, if we cannot figure it out. And so we started this, and within 2 years, we already had about 40% of the United States traffic. Because we knew what we were doing, we got that all going. And in 4 years, we got the entire company, not just my division. Right. We all got acquired for $1.2 billion.
Wow.
Well, it was the best decision I ever made.
Right.
But I almost said no.
Right. And it's that interesting thing that we have that voice inside of us. And I think it's everybody. I think everybody has a voice. When we're going to take on something new, there's always that voice that comes in and goes, can you do this? It's going to be too hard. What are you going to, we all have that voice. And I think that most people pay too much attention to the voice. Like instead of just going, okay, I hear you and I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I hear you and I'm just going to go do it. And so your husband, thank goodness, challenged you on the very thing that you were coaching other people at. Right? This is the thing about being vulnerable and listening to the things that we say to other people and we're not doing them. We have to do them if we're going to believe it, right? You have to step into that if you're going to believe it. So tell me more. I love that you said, look, when I started this, I went out and picked the 5 of the most brilliant people that I knew. That takes a huge level of confidence because a lot of people don't want brilliance around them. They want to shine. And the difference is knowing that you're going to shine with more brilliant people around you, like having that confidence. So what would you say to the people who live in the world of like ego and they want to be the smartest person in the room? What would you say to those individuals to help them understand like how that really negates you?
I think the biggest thing that I always believe in is you want to surround yourself with people that bring the complementary skill sets, because you have some skill sets for sure, because you're in the position you are, because you have some skill sets. All that complementary stuff, you don't know everything. Nobody knows anything. So you have to have that complementary skill sets, bring the best in those fields, and give them the power to shine, because when they shine, you shine. I mean, that is the biggest thing, right? And you have to give them the tools to let them succeed. Yep. Because when they succeed, you succeed. That's the most important thing, is there is no ego. If you show ego and you put them down, you're going to look really bad. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, you know it in sports. Yep. I mean, that's, again, this is something we've talked about in the past, which is sports, right? From early childhood, you get leadership qualities, you get team building qualities, you get confidence, all kinds of things that you realize, in the team, we used to have the shooters, you have the point guards, you have all these different complementary skill sets that you have to bring together to make this brilliant team.
Absolutely. And you're right. What I would say to my team too is, like, parents would come to me and go, my kid should be playing. I go, wait, let me just explain to you this. Like, I'm going to play your child no matter if I like him or not. Like, it has nothing to do with it. Like if we're in alignment personalities or not, I don't care. If your child can play, they're going to play. And here's why. Their success is my success. I'm never going to hurt my success. Like, I want to win. And so, I think that's the true attitude of any great leader is, look, I want to win. And so I'm going to find a way to work with you, whether or not we're in agreement or not, whether I don't believe in your religion or your politics or your whatever, like, that has no play in winning. Winning is about, let's find a way to work together so we can get the ultimate victory. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You find a way. Yep. And it's all about win-win. Everybody wins. You have to, that's the other thing about one of the mantras I always have in any situation I go into, where especially tough situations, you're always in these high stress situations, etc. The one thing I walk in with, what is the win for them? What is the win for me?
I like it.
How do I create a win-win situation? Mm-hmm. And that typically will always get people talking along the same lines. Otherwise, you're always at friction.
Yeah, because you can't just be about your win. I mean, they have to have, like, if you don't have buy-in from them, if there's not benefit for them to do it, and you're asking them to do it, they have no buy-in. It's like, why should they join? Why should they get excited? Why should they have passion? What does it do for me? And everybody goes like, oh, you remember the kid that would go up to bat, they'd take one for the team? I'm like, no. The reason they let that ball hit them is because they believed in what was going to happen as a result of that. Like, they were going to get lifted on the shoulders. They were going to be clapped. Everybody was going to love them. So there has to be a benefit for everybody. And if you understand your team, and what you're great at, Chandy, is coaching. Like, you take the time to coach your team. So tell us a little bit about, like, how much time do you take to coach you can't coach everybody on your team. Like, you've got way too many team members, but you can coach your direct reports, those leaders that are right below you. So what does, like, coaching look like for you?
So coaching is, every time it's you have to be on top of it every day of your life, for sure. When in an incident, let's say we're sitting as a team and we're working on something, and somebody says something or says something that, or shares something that is a coaching moment, you always make a note of it and then have a one-on-one with the person later and have a conversation as to why that was either inappropriate or why did you think that way, to understand. First thing is, don't judge, always understand, listen, figure out why they said what they said. So, that is very critical, right? It's, you respond. There's so much here, the power is in how you respond, right? As opposed to, you cannot control what people say, but you can always control how you respond to what people say. And so that is something that, I remember reading one of Simon Sinek's, watching one of his podcasts or webinars or whatever, and this is so important because I truly believe in that. It's how you respond that makes who you are. So I'll give you an example of a coaching thing. I joined this company and I was new in this company. The first job they gave me was this one individual that inheriting this large team. I was a global head there, and inheriting this large team, there's this one person who'd be one of your direct reports, and we just put him on a PIP, and so you need to let go of him in 3 months. I was thinking, oh my God, I said, that's my first job. This is crazy, yeah. So I went in, I said, can I request instead of 3 months, can you give me a year? And they say, well, you'll figure it out. It'll be 3 months. Believe me, once you're working with them, you'll realize. I walked in, I was new. I sat down with my entire team, got to learn each one of them, what takes and what doesn't and all that. And I was talking to this guy and I realized, guy is really sharp, quite smart, would come up with ideas and thoughts, all kinds of things. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to assign him to some special projects and not what he does on whatever his title says, and let's assign him to some special projects. And each time he would kill it. I mean, like, I'm telling you, he was like way ahead of the pack. So I went on. So I went in, and obviously I'm working with HR in parallel, and I'm like, I'm taking him off the PIP. Forget about talking about when I'm going to lay him off. He's doing fantastically. I think he's just in the wrong role. And so I took him off his technology role, put him into program management, heading projects, figuring out structured responsibilities, how you get teams to work, and all that. By the end of the year, I kid you not, he was one of my 5 rated employees.
Well, I think that's understanding, right? You're taking the time to hear the person, to learn about the person, to see what they can and can't do, to move them someplace they can be successful. This is knowing the person. This is taking the time to know the person instead of just saying they don't work. That will never work.
Exactly. And so that, that really was something, that was a lesson that I learned, that you just don't take assignments and do them blindly. You just have to, put your, understand it and figure out how you're going to, always listen and, make your own decisions.
Yeah. I have a coaching client, and this is going to blow you away. It's brilliant. Like, this woman's brilliant. Like, she's super brilliant. And so they put her in a role. And it's a brand new role for her. She's been in the company for several years. And she keeps going to her manager and saying, hey, listen, I need better feedback. Like, she's very honest. I operate on great feedback. Like, either it's constructive feedback or it's, positive feedback, doesn't matter. I need to have direction. If I come to ask you a question, I need you to help me figure this out. Once you get me going the right direction, I'm good at it. And they didn't listen to her. I'm like, well, here's a brilliant human being. Way off the charts. And then she sees the things in the company that are not working. And she's like, this is really bothering me, because I talk to my teammates and they say, shut your mouth and come in and do the minimal work and they're going to pay you. And she's like, no, I want to make a difference. And see, nobody's seeing or hearing her. They will lose that person. The company will lose that person. And here's the deal. You know this, that 20% of your people do 80% of your work, right? Why won't you keep your 20%? I don't understand that.
Motivated. And motivation is so important to make sure that they can do what they want to do and shine in what they want to do. So, yep.
Yeah, listening, hearing, taking the time to know your individuals. It's so important. Like, coaching, to me, coaching and leadership are synonymous. Like, you can't have a good leader without being a great coach. Like, those two go together. So I want to go back, because you took this position over. You're like, yeah, I took this position over. You got 5 brilliant people, surrounding you, and you increased, 40 to 40% of the overall. You're like, okay, we're going to go in. I don't know if you had that goal or not, but you continue to improve and you continue to gain strength. So looking back, besides, hiring these 5 brilliant people, what else did it take to move that company up that level so fast? What's another big, huge key that you had?
One of the key things is driving that focus. Now, what is it that we can deliver? We want to be the best in what we're doing. That's the only way you'll win. So I knew that this company had this massive infrastructure across the country. So the services that we were going to build for 911, for mission critical, Department of Homeland Security government infrastructure, we had to figure out what is it that we could utilize in this really fantastic nationwide network and build our services on top of it for the best quality product that we could get out there. And so we set the focus, the tone, etc. Of this is the area in the entire ecosystem that the 911 ecosystem is very complicated. Most people don't actually understand what all goes behind the 911 ecosystem. And so this one area of incoming traffic, 911 traffic, is where we're going to focus, and we're going to be the best in the country for that. And that's what we got. I got the entire team to focus on that. We all agreed that that's where we'll be the best at. Got all the skill sets within each one of us, then had to grow out our teams. All my 5 direct reports had to grow out their teams, get all the right people, and then build them up with all the best people again. And that's what we had, very clear KPIs, goals, and we moved forward towards each one of those. And slowly, we started chipping away quarter by quarter and making the right. But it's not just the end customer. What is our go-to-market strategy? Who are our competitors? Writing up that whole thing. Mm-hmm. And and one of the things I will never forget is, again, this whole thing about. You feel like, okay, you're on top of the world, you can do, but there's always still very high pressure moments. And I'll never forget my number one high pressure moment was the first time I had to present to the board. End of the first quarter, I had been in place for 90 days, and I had to present to the board. And remember, this is a private equity board that, is looking for when am I going to turn EBITDA positive, all the typical requirements of funding our company. So I had built up, and I did my preparation, which is step one. I went, rehearsed it several times, went back to my mentor, who was the president, reviewed it with him, did everything that I had to. And then the whole point about, trying to, how do you now kind of get to that point where you can walk in with that confidence, get back to my space of being confident when I walked into that board was, I'm the only one who understands this topic. Literally, when I'm walking into that board, I'm the expert in this field. Mm-hmm. I'm the one who's bringing in value.
Right.
I'm here to advise and provide updates to the board.
Right.
So I'm the one with the leverage. I'm the one who understands this. Yes, they're going to be asking me tough questions. I don't need to answer everything that same minute. I'm going to tell them, I'm going to research, and I'll get back to you. Mm-hmm. So that's how I handled that high pressure moment. But this was something new for me, even in my late stage career. I'm like, this is something I've never done this before. And owning a P&L is a whole different ballgame. I've always been a CIO. So for me, it was budgets and making sure I stayed on my budget and all, but not working with all the customers, working with all the vendors, working with the partners, making sure my teams is delivering like literally end-to-end delivery responsibility for the business. And so that was a fantastic learning curve. So then after that, every quarter I was presenting, and we made it happen. So
something you just brought out, and I think is so huge, and for the people who are not hearing this is what I heard. You had the self-talk that you needed. So you reached out. Like this is an old athlete thing, right? If you don't have the right self-talk, there's no way you're going to go in to win the game. And so your self-talk was, I'm the expert. Like nobody else in this room really knows what I know. Like they might ask me questions, but the reason they're asking me questions is because they don't know the things that I know. And you're prepared. That's part of the key to anything's preparation, but also that internal self-talk that says, I've got this, I'm the expert, I know, I'm a value. I think that when I talk to people, I'm really never surprised anymore about the self-talk that they give. How many people do I say, give me 10 positive about yourself, and they'll do 2 and then go right into negative. Like most people can't go beyond 2 before they start speaking negative about themselves. So this power that you got, you're so fortunate because your dad started you off with this super huge, this is the power that everybody needs, is that self-talk power. Do you ever talk to your team about that inner talk? Is that something that you bring forth to them?
Yeah, a lot, because I'll walk into a team meeting and with my direct reports, and we're talking about this new strategy, this new thing that we're going to do, and what new pilots, what new big bets do we have, etc. And a person's several of my, I mean, the automatic response, like you just mentioned, will be, oh, we can't do that because of this, and this. Oh, we can't invest in this because we don't have any money, or we don't have any people, or, oh, we'll get killed in that field because there are all these other competitors that are already in place, and etc. So my coaching is always, let's talk about whether we need the right resources, whether we have the right amount of money, whether the competitors are already in place as the next steps. Here was what I'm throwing out to you. What areas do you think we should enter? Where do we think we can add value? Mm-hmm. And then we'll talk about then we'll talk about the obstacles to entry and how we overcome those. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But unless we get to, this is what we want to do first, right. This is where we want to shine, this is where we can grow, we're never going to get to all those if we start bringing those up front. And if you're going to bring all the negatives up front, we're never going to get to how can we kill the industry with this, and this. So that's one of the key things that I coach a lot about is don't bring the negatives up front. It's just, and actually, which was so interesting, I heard this speech. I was at our national 911 conference. There was a person from Disney who was talking, this was back in the day. And they were talking about the power of and so here's what they do in their strategy sessions. And I think about that because this is exactly what I like my team doing also, is let's think about a movie where there are a bunch of ants, as an example. There are a bunch of ants, and these ants are really happy on this mount, but those ants are their competition. And then they move to the next person, and the next person says, but they don't. And then they stop it right there and they say, you can't say but. You have to say and. So you have these two mounds of ants, and there's all these rainbows in the sky with unicorns, or they say there's something, and then the next person will say, okay, so there are two mounds of ants, and there's all these unicorns and rainbows in the sky, and they all start adding up to build this story that they then they decide, obviously then they edit out and all that, but they've got all these ideas on the table. It's all and. So that's what people should be thinking about, is don't bring someone else's idea down by saying, but you can't do this, but you can't do that. It'll take everyone's ideas and then see what makes sense. All of them.
I agree with that 100%, because I think if you go but, you're already in the negative. Like you're already explaining why something can't work. If you say and, you're opening up all opportunities. Chandy, man, this has been so full of information, so much wisdom out there. I love your energy. I love your passion. Like, it's contagious. I'm so thrilled that you were here with me today. If somebody had a question, how could they find you? Would they find you on LinkedIn?
Oh, absolutely. LinkedIn. I'm always open. Please explain how, because I get lots of requests. So if you can I add one other thing to my this one?
Please.
One of the things that I really want to discuss with people is, as you're growing in your career, always think about community, because community is what has brought you up, and always try to help the people, the hand that's feeding you. Because I think this is something that is so important to me, because 911 is where I make my, livelihood. One of the things that I've done is I created a nonprofit called Women in 911. It is basically to help our first responders with their very heavy PTSD. And there's a high level of, they take their lives, and there's all kinds of mental illness issues, etc. So I started this nonprofit, and now it's all over the United States and Canada. And I started with just some strong volunteers who believed in this. Mm-hmm. And now we're funded by Amazon, T-Mobile, Comcast, Motorola, etc., because it is so important. It is absolutely critical. We provide all kinds of services for people going through any form of these mental illness issues, etc. And the whole goal of our organization, Women in 911, is to help them be there, to reach their full potential, so that they can get training, education. They can come to all the different conferences all over the country to be able to see where they want to drive their career, etc. This is something big for me. So,
well, first of all, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that you're using your passion, your energy beyond, your company walls, beyond that, and you're really looking to help and support. I think this is what great leaders do. They're looking for ways to support, to energize people, to help people that are out there. So thank you for doing that. And you're just, like I said, I just love your passion, your energy. So everybody, thank you for joining Olympic Minds and the podcast. Come back again. I know that you got great value. So please share the podcast with other people and have a winning day. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.